Hello, I'm Paul Zaychuk. I would like to talk to you today about the outward rotation of the supporting leg when a sideline kick is thrown. The side kick, the hook kick, or the roundhouse. Okay? Now, different styles are different. In some styles, for instance, for a side kick, the leg would come up like so, and the supporting leg would only turn out when the kick is thrown. That's not what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about the supporting leg turning as soon as the chamber comes up. Okay? So, if you would look at my feet, side kick chamber comes up, leg turned away and back. Roundhouse chamber comes up, turn away and back. Okay, same thing on the other side. My legs are parallel right now. Roundhouse chamber, turn. Side kick chamber, turn. Okay? Now, a lot of people have issues with their knees when this turnout takes place. Sometimes the hips, sometimes the ankles, but very often the knees. Okay? So we're going to examine what's going on to get a better understanding of it. Okay? We're going to try right now a classic ballet turnout. So what I want you to do is keep your feet together, heels together, toes together. You would keep your heels together and turn your toes out. Okay? You may only do 90 degrees. You may do 100 degrees. You may do 75 degrees. Okay, but whatever you can do, if you were to bend your knees, you would be able to bring your toes out more. Okay? Now, if you try to extend your knees are not extending completely. Okay? The reason for that is because the turnout is initiated by your toes. Okay? Especially when the knees are bent. The turnout is not initiated by the hips. Now, the correct way to do it is to initiate the turnout from the hip. Okay? The goal is not so much how far your toes travel in a circle, but how much rotation is allowed by your hip joint. Okay? So, looking at that one more time, everything's together. Small angle, bend the knees, larger angle. Can't extend the legs. Okay? Now, what does that have to do with kicking? When you throw a kick, if instead of naturally turning your hip out, you think in your head, okay, my target is right here, I'm going to throw a side kick, and you turn the toes out, looking at your toes, making sure that your toes are turned out, instead of feeling your hip turning out, you turn your toes out. Very often people do this with the knees bent. So now you try to throw a kick, you have your upper leg turn more inward than your lower leg. Okay? So what happens when you have the upper leg turn more than the lower leg? There's problems with the knees. Okay? The ligaments and sometimes even the tendons, if they're not flexible enough, are going to get hurt. Going to get injured. Okay? So that's pretty much the issue that's happening there. Now, the ways to correct it. Number one, you have to have flexibility. Your inward rotators, gluteus minimus, gluteus medius, tensor fasciae lata, they rotate the hip inward. So when you rotate the hip outward, you actually stretch them. Okay, so they have to be flexible enough to allow for complete outward rotation for sideline kicks. Okay, not a lot of people have that, unfortunately. That's number one. And number two, the muscles that rotate the leg out, okay, gluteus maximus, the deep six, sometimes even sartorius, those muscles must be strong enough to rotate the leg. Okay, and very often people have both of those issues. Not enough flexibility and not enough strength. Okay, and if you do not have that, do not turn your leg out more than you can. Okay, because very often the instructors say on the first day, especially if this is how the kicks are done in your style, make sure that your supporting toes are facing away from the target. So a student automatically turns away, okay, and then when the kick is thrown, bottom leg, the bottom of the foot is turned, upper leg is turned the other way, palm to the knee. You may not get the palms right away, but after a few weeks or a few months of doing it, your knee is going to start showing you some kind of inflammation or some kind of painful progression there. Okay? So If you can't turn from the hip with the knee straight all the way, don't. Do as much as you can. Okay? Practice your kicks that way. It's not the most biomechanical correct way to do it if you kick this way in your style, but it doesn't matter. Because after a while you'll be able to turn out more. If you feel like time is passing by, you can't turn out, then you have to do the stretches for the inward rotators to allow to the outward rotation of your hip, and you also have to strengthen your outward rotators. Don't worry about the inward rotators of your hip, because the inward rotators are very often also the abductors, so every time you throw the sideline kick they're strengthened. Okay? It's the outward rotators that usually do not have enough strength, as well as very often there's a lot of strength that's being built up for the inward rotators and not enough flexibility.